Jimmy Neutron, Jim Jones, beefing with Cam. We here to talk about it tonight, man. Hop in the comment section. Let me know how y'all feeling. We here to talk about it, man. Jim Jones, Cameron. What is Jim really mad about? We here to talk about it tonight, man. Got me a little beer. Jim Jones, put your heat bill in the comment section. We here with it tonight. Let me get my bell. Hold on, get my bell tonight. Let me get my bell. Jim Jones, put your heat bill in the comment section. Shout out to China Brim. Put your heat bill in the comment section. Put your heat bill in the comment section, Jim Jones. We're here to talk about it tonight. What is Jim Jones really mad about? Why is he beefing with Cam, bro? Why is he beefing with Cam? Make sure you guys wipe your feet when you come into the door. Let me actually put a poll. Let me start a poll. Let me start a poll real quick. Let me start a poll real quick. Did Jim Jones not pay his heat bill? We want to know. I want to know. Did Jim Jones not pay his heat bill? Give me 1 second. We're going to put that in the comment section. We're going to put that in the comment section. Did Jim Jones not pay his heat bill? We want to know tonight, bro. We want to know tonight. Jim Jones, you got to pay that heat bill, my nigga. You got to pay that heat bill, my nigga. You got to check in on that heat bill. You know, you got people coming in. You got people patronizing your business. You got Davies. You got Fabulous coming in there. You know, they got to come in there with coats on. They got to bring their they got to wear their winter best in that motherfucking building, yo. Because you ain't paying the damn heat bill, man. Listen, man, that shit is real. You'll pay the heat bill, Jim Jones. Why Jim Jones ain't paying the heat bill? Why he keeping motherfuckers cold in there? You got niggas cold in there. Niggas got to put on their minks. Niggas got to put on their Northeast. Niggas got to put on their North Faces. Niggas got to put on their minks. Niggas got to put on their Gore-Tex coats. Couture says everybody had coats and scarves on in there. That's a fact. That's a fact. Everybody had coats on. Every time you tune in to Let's Rap About It, niggas got coats on. Why? They ain't got no heat in that building. They ain't got... What's good with the heat in the building? Niggas ain't got the heat on. Niggas, what's going on with the heat? Why do every time we tune in to Let's Rap About It, everybody got on a coat? Everybody got on their winter best. They got on North Faces, they got on minks, they got on flight jackets, they got on all types of headwear. I mean, why is it so cold in that damn building, Jim Jones? We want to know. You got that building mad extra cold. And Jim Jones, see, the problem with Jim Jones, in my opinion, is, you know, he wants to be a businessman. He wants to be he wants to be like what Cam is doing and what 50's doing. But the thing is with Jim is he's too invested in other things that are just not profitable for him. He still wants to be a Billy Badass throwing up Trey. He's too invested into the street aspect. Jim Jones, you need to take your focus off of the street aspect and put your focus into the business aspects. You don't see Cameron still I'm from 140th and Broadway and I'm repping Harlem. Cameron is a businessman. You don't see 50 Cent, yo, I'm from Southside Jamaica, Queens, and Guy Brewer and all this nonsense. I used to run with Supreme Team. He passed that. He's a businessman. He's an entrepreneur. Jim Jones, he still wants to have one foot into the streets. And that's what's hurt him. He still wants to be a street guy. He still wants to be Trey, Billy Badass, throwing up Trey. And it's hurt him. It's hurt him. it's hurt his evolution. Because when you look at Jim Jones, he's supposed to be farther along. He's supposed to be with his peers. When you look at his peers, and I'm looking at his peers. I'm looking at the Camerons, the 50 Cents, the Jay-Z's, the Nas's. These are his peers. These are people that are in his age group, and these are the people that he grew up listening to, and the people that he grew up around. Not around, but let's say he was, around. He's around the same age as these people, right? And when you look at all these individuals, they farther ahead. These men are businessmen. These men are entrepreneurs. These men, their main revenue is not music. Yeah, they like to put out a song here and there. They may put out an album here and there, but their main revenue is not music. They have other things. Music is their hobby. It's a hobby for Cam. It's a hobby for Nas. It's a hobby for Jay-Z. It's a hobby for Cameron. Jim Jones still want to be the artist. Like, dog, a lot of these dudes it's a hobby for them. They love to do it, but it's a hobby. And Jim is still trying to be an artist. He's still trying to be itchy yah, still trying to be that guy. Give me 1 second. Let me read the comments. Demosa says he too old for that mess. He is too old for that. Jim Jones is 50 plus years old. Let's put that in context. He is half a century old. When a nigga turns 50, he has to really, because some people think it's 40. 40 is old too, but I'm going to be honest with you. When you hit 50, you have to come to a realization that, dog, you are half a century years old. You not just the typical old nigga. You're not the typical old nigga. When you 40, you're old, but it's like, listen, you can still pop out to a function every now and then. You can still run around with a couple 20-year-old females that's rocking with you, that want to date you. But when you hit 50, you have to come to a realization that, dog, you are half a century years old. You are half a century years old. Jim Jones is 50 years old. He's half a century years old. Dog, you need to sit down. You need to contemplate your AARP. You need to contemplate your retirement. You need to contemplate that, listen, hip-hop and rap music cannot be your main revenue no more. You need to be venturing off into other things. You need to be beyond music at this point, Jim Jones. Let's be honest. I'm not saying that he can't put out a song or even a mixtape or an album. I think he should still do that, but that should not be your main revenue. That should not be what you're making your music, your coins off of, in my opinion. Demosa says he is in his second childhood. I disagree. I think Jim Jones is in his fourth childhood, maybe third or fourth childhood. Couture says Jim is supposed to be designing collections for True Religion and Chrome Hearts. I agree. I think he's supposed to be farther along in his career. I don't think he should be throwing up 9 Trey and doing all of this. I think he should be further along in his career. He should be, like you said, designing clothes. He should be doing podcasts, interviews. He should be further along. Why is he still keeping up this gangster image? Why is he challenging Cam, talking about you soft? You soft. You not pull up on me. And you saw how Cameron decimated him, talking about pull up on that phone, pull up on that heat bill, pull up on that damn heat bill. And he's right. When you're 50 years old, when you're 50 plus years old, and you're talking about pull up on me, dog, pull up on that heat bill. Pull up on your damn pull up on your rent payments to that landlord when you missed out on the payment and 50 Cent had to come in and find out what's going on. Pull up on that. Cameron is right. Allegedly Jim Jones is yoking up the landlord, messing with the heating system. What's going on with Jomo? Put your heat bill in the comment section. Shout out to China Bro. Let me take a sip real quick. Jomo, Put your heat bill in the comment section. Listen, Jomo was in his third childhood. He's in his third or fourth childhood. He needs to grow up. And if and when you saw, you know what was telling to me? What was telling to me is when Mel Murder came home. When Mel Murder came home, he had Mel Murder. Now remember, Mel Murder did. I think he did about 7+ years. Give me 1 second, y'all. My phone just flipped over. He did about 7+ years in prison, in federal prison. He made that man come home. First of all, he made that man come home to. He made that man take a train to come meet him. Most people say, you know what? Let's go to the prison. Let's give him a welcome home. Let's get his mama. Let's get his kids out here. Let's get his friends and his family. Let's all just hug him and embrace him and love on him. Like that's what the reasonable and respectful thing to do. Jim Jones said, "Nah, my nigga, go hop on that A train, my nigga. We'll meet you at the stop, my nigga. Hop on that A train. Come on, Jim. Why'd you do that to that man? And then you make the nigga take the train up there to come meet you. And then you give the nigga a slave chain. You didn't give the nigga no property. You didn't give the nigga, something he could, something he can invest in. You didn't give the nigga a business. You gave the nigga a slave chain. Come on, Jim. You're moving backwards. Look at Jay-Z. When Jay-Z's friend came home, Emery, look up Emery. One of Jay-Z's friends. He did time when he came home. Jay-Z gave him opportunities. He gave him a job. He gave him a position. When your niggas come home, you give them a slave chain. Niggas don't want slave chain. I can't feed my family with slave chains. A slave chain, a non-tray slave chain is not gonna feed my family, Jomo. Why you giving Mel Matrix a slave chain? See, that's what I'm saying. Jomo is thinking backwards. He's not thinking right. He's stuck in an era. He's stuck in a point in his life. He's on his third childhood. I'm just keeping it real. But like Couture said, he's right. Jim is supposed to be designing collections for True Religion and Chroma. I agree with that. He's supposed to be doing that. Let me put my glasses on. Give me 1 second, Joe. My glasses on. I agree with that, though. He's supposed to be doing that. Why isn't he doing that? Why isn't Jomo designing? Why isn't Jomo more in tune? Because let's be real. We got to give Jim Jones his credit. You know, Jim Jones, he definitely started that whole rock star look. He started that whole that whole True Religion. I mean, he was the first one on True Religion. He was the first one on Chrome Hearts. He was the first one on the BB Simons. He was the first one on those Rockstar Jean chains, the wallet chains. He was the first one on all of that stuff. He should be at the forefront of all of that in terms of fashion. He should be at the forefront. He should be reaping the benefits. He should be out there doing these things, but he's not. Why isn't he doing that? Because he has 1 foot and still trying to be a gangster. He has 1 foot and still trying to prove something that I don't know why he's trying to prove it. I don't know why Jim Jones is still trying to prove that he's non-Trey or he's this or he's that. Give me 1 second, Charles. Let me wipe off my glasses. But the thing about Jim Jones, I don't know what's up with Jim, man. I don't know what's up with Jim. Jim, and I'm gonna be honest with you, because I'm a Dipset fan, right? I'm a Dipset fan. I blame Jim Jones for the death of Dipset. I blame Jim Jones for the death of Dipset. Because at the end of the day, Cameron, Jim Jones, y'all was going through your little beef or whatever. Y'all had your little issues or whatever. But What signaled the end of Dipset for me was when Jim Jones decided to get on stage with 50 Cent. Why did Jim Jones decide to do that? Because Jim Jones, he's so brokenhearted off of all the things Cameron has said or all the things Cameron has did. But at the end of the day, Jim Jones, you decided to hop on stage with 50 Cent. Why did you do that? Why did you do that, Jim Jones? Because you can say whatever you want about Cam. You can say whatever you want. You hopped on stage with 50 Cent at the height of the beef with Cameron and 50. You could have been, you know what, neutral. You could have said, you know what, I don't want nothing to do with 50 and Cameron's beef. You could have been a respectful, you could have been a brother. You could have been respectful of Cameron. You could have been loyal. You could have said, you know what? I don't want to even be loyal. I just want to be neutral. I don't want to rock with 50 or Cam. You could have went that route. But no, you decided to hop on stage with 50. You decided to do that. And that was the beginning of the end for Dipset. Let's be honest. That was the beginning of the end for Dipset. Um, Couture says, wish they all could get along. Couture also says, but Jim effed up when he stepped out with 50 on Rap City. That's a fact. After Cam defended him on radio after his deal. That's a fact. That's a fact. That's a 1000% fact. At the end of the day, I blame Jim Jones for the death of Dipset. I think the death of Dipset was really the doing of Jim Jones. Jim Jones decided to hop on stage with 50 Cent. He decided to go on Rap City with 50 Cent. He decided to befriend 50 at a point in time where Cam, and if you don't know about that whole point in time, Cam was beefing with 50, but Cam was going through a lot. I think Cam was taking care of his mother at that point in time. He was dealing with whatever he was dealing with at that point in time. He had a lot going on, and here he dealing with Jim Jones, and he hopping on stage. He's making the team look weak. It was a bad time. Uh, the Mosa says them chain days was over in the '80s with Run DMC because the '90s got you offed off. Listen, at the end of the day, like I said, I blame Jim Jones. Jim Jones is the reason why Dipset fell off. He's the reason. Jim Jones should have just played his position. And when you think about Jim Jones, if we're going to be honest, if we're going to be real here, he was always a disloyal nigga. Let's be real. He was always a disloyal nigga. He tried to run off with the Bird Gang like, oh, nah, this is the new improved Dipset. We're doing it bigger than Dipset. We got the Bird Gang. He tried to run off with the wave. He tried to, he tried to take over Harlem. That didn't work because everybody realized he ain't from Harlem. You ain't from Harlem, nigga. And people think that that's a new discussion that Jim Jones ain't from Harlem. I remember back in the day when Max was running around, like niggas was saying that back then that nigga Jim Jones wasn't from Harlem. Niggas was saying that nigga ain't from Harlem. That nigga from the Bronx. I remember back then they were saying that. So that's always been a discussion. But yeah, Jim tried to take over Harlem. That didn't work because you ain't from Harlem. He tried to take over the whole Dipset wave. That didn't work. And like, he's just looking crazy right now. In my opinion, Jim just needs to just realize that dog, you were a part of something great. You were a great contributor, but it's time to move on. Cameron ain't messing with you. Um, you know, it's time to move on. Stop talking about Cam. Stop, because we know what Jim is trying to do. Jim is trying to get some traction. Jim is trying to get some views. The Let's Talk About It podcast, let's be honest, it's not really moving like that. Outside of the fabulous freestyle, we're not really talking about the podcast like that. the Fabulous freestyle on 50 Cent. That's the only thing we're talking about. We're not talking about what they're talking about on the podcast. We're not talking about any moments from that podcast. We're not talking about anything in regards to that podcast outside of the Fabulous freestyle. We're only talking about the Fabulous freestyle. We're only talking about that Fabulous diss 50 Cent, and he said he had a couple hot lines in that song. That's all we're talking about. We're not talking about anything else in regards of whatever he got going on right now. And I'm not even trying to hate on Jim because I like the Let's Rap About It podcast, and I like the Artist to Artist podcast as well. But niggas ain't talking about it like that. I'm just keeping it real. Couture says Jim and the game are a cautionary tale of never outshine the master. Be grateful of those who put you on. I agree. I agree. I think that the thing with the game is they left so much money on the table. The game and G Unit, they left so much money on the table. If you think about it, if they would have stayed together and never had all that beef and never had all those issues, imagine how much money they could have made. They could have made millions and millions of dollars off of albums and tours and collaborative efforts. They would have been stronger as a unit together instead of breaking it apart. They left a lot of money on the table. So I agree. I agree. Never outshine the master. But I'm gonna be honest with you. We've seen people outshine the master and it worked for them, right? Look at Kanye and Jay-Z. In my opinion, Kanye outshined the master. Kanye outshined Jay-Z. I don't care. I don't care what people say about Jay-Z. Kanye is a better artist than Jay-Z. Better discography, better songs, better legacy. In my opinion, Kanye has outshined Jay-Z. On an artist level, it's not even comparable. When you put into play what he's done for fashion, what he's done for sneaker culture, what he's done for music, it's what he's done for concerts, it's not even close. Kanye outshined the master. Same thing with Drake and Lil Wayne. Drake has outshined the master. So it can work. It can work. I think the problem with Game, I think the problem with Jim is that they were mad disrespectful. They weren't humble with it. Think about it. Game, he went on a whole GU not rant. Oh, I'm GU not and dissing G Unit members, and he went on a whole spill just going after G Unit. Jim Jones, he's beefing with the head of Dipset. So I think it's more so of a disrespect thing. But I think that we've seen cases where the student outshined the master and it worked. Um, but I think it's more so of a disrespecting. I know because when another, I could put another thing on the table. Let's look at Eminem and Dr. Dre. Eminem and Dr. Dre. Eminem has far out success Dre in terms of an artist level. Um, I think it's more of a respect thing because when you look at Drake and Lil Wayne, there's a respect. When you look at Eminem and Dre, there's a respect thing. Even with Kanye before he wilded out, there was a respect thing. I think it's the respect that gets lost. That is why things went the way went the way they did. Same thing with Jim Jones and Cameron. I think the respect was lost. You know, in my opinion. You know, but it is a cautionary tale, though. It is a cautionary tale. You know, at the end of the day, I just want to know what's going on with Jim Jones and that heat bill. Why is the heat so low? What's going on with the heat, Jim Jones? Why you beating up on your landlord telling that nigga to put the heat on. Well, what's going on? Does Cam have that footage? And we need to see that footage. I want to see that footage of Cameron yoking up the landlord. I mean, of Jim Jones, excuse me, yoking up the landlord. I want to see that. Couture says they were still students in the game though, and allowed the fame to get to their heads. I agree. I agree with that sentiment. I agree with that sentiment. But at the end of the day, when you look at certain cases, like let's look at Drake and Lil Wayne, even though they're probably not on the best terms, even though Drake slept with one of Lil Wayne's girlfriends at one point in time, you can tell that there's respect there. There's a lot of respect there. There's a lot of respect there. Same thing with Eminem. There's a lot of respect there. Um, I think that game, I think that game, Jim Jones, there's no respect. There's no respect. There's no respect. At the end of the day, where would Jim Jones really be without Cameron? I mean, let's be honest. Most of those Dipset guys, I got to be real. Most of those Dipset guys, Jim Jones, Freaky Zeke, Joel Santana, J.R. Ryder, Hell Rell, where would they be without Cam? Let's be real. Let's be honest. Where would they be? Where would they be without Cameron putting them on, giving them a position, giving them an opportunity, putting them on songs, putting them on mixtape? Where would they be? Especially Jim Jones, because Jim Jones came in at a point where he wasn't even rapping. He wasn't even rapping. He was a hype man. He was in the back, doing the itchy yah dances and hyping up the crowd. He was a hype man slash weed carrier. He was never no rapper. So where would Jim Jones be? Where would Jim Jones be without Cameron? And I think at a certain point, that has to come into play because Jim Jones can say whatever he want right now. He can say whatever he want, about Cameron and yada yada yada. But I'm gonna be honest with you. If it wasn't for Cameron, we would never know who Jim Jones is. I don't think we would have ever cared who Jim Jones was without a Cameron. Couture says they would have been local rappers without Cam. In all honesty, that's a fact. That's a 1,000% Snapple fact. They all would have been local rappers, and they would have all never left the hood. Jim Jones would have never left the hood. He would have been non-Trey on the block. J.R. Ryder would have been making the Riders block 100. Hell Rell would have been on the corner. I'm just keeping it real. At the end of the day, let's just be real. That's what it is. That's just what it is. I think Jim Jones, and I don't think what Jim Jones did in terms of, like me personally, I don't clown Jim Jones for the whole Heat thing. I don't think the Heat thing is a big problem. Jim Jones, he's running a startup business. He's just starting, he's just, beginning his company. He hasn't had, the experience yet. I don't knock Jim Jones for what he's going through right now in terms of not having the heat on and all that jazz. I don't think that's a big deal. He's an upstart. It's going to take him time. I don't think that's something to knock him for. It's funny. It's funny. It's entertaining. It's and it's fair game for people he's clapping at and dissing. He's dissing 50 Cent. He's dissing Cameron. So it's fair game for them. But at the end of the day, when I'm looking at it, I don't necessarily knock him for that. I don't knock Jim Jones for not having heat in his warehouse. He's an upstart. He's an upstart business. He's an upstart podcaster. He's just getting his feet wet. He's just beginning things. I don't knock him for that. Me personally, I don't knock him for that. Couture says he's been able to set trends and give us talents respect to Stacks and Max. I agree. But Jim Jones has found great talents. He's been able to find great musicians. Um, and he's been able to start trends. Um, the problem with Jimmy Jones, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. He has a good ear for talent. He has a good find for talent, a good eye for talent. He's a trendsetter. But the problem with Jim Jones is he still wants to be a part of the streets. And I think he needs to grow up out of that. He needs to get out of the whole street aspect. Like the street aspect is not going to help him in the rest of his life. He's 50 plus years old. The street is not going to help him. Being 9 Trey is not going. It's going to land him in jail. He needs to be on his hands and knees, thanking the good Lord for not being in that federal indictment with 6ix9ine. No matter how he did not end up in that federal indictment. Some people say he snitched or he's been cooperating. I'm not gonna say that, but he needs to be thanking the Lord for not being in that indictment. Um, but he needs to get out of the streets, man. He got to stop getting. He got to get out of the streets. No more 9 Trey, bro. Like get out the 9 Trey movement, and just focus on being a great content creator. Focus on your music. Focus on whatever you got to focus on. His mind is too focused on things that are not important. You still got one foot in the streets, and you're still trying to be a rapper, and you're trying to be a podcaster. He needs to get away from that. Get away from the mindset of being a 9 Trey member. Get out of the mindset of being a full-time rapper and be a part-time rapper, not a full-time rapper, but a part-time rapper, and focus on your content. Focus on working on your warehouse and making that profitable for you. Like that's what I think he should be doing. But he don't think like that. I don't think he's thinking like that. I think he still wants to have one foot in the 9 Trey. Still wants to have one foot in the street. Still wants to be a full-time rapper. And at the end of the day, it doesn't work like that. You know? I seen Joe Button say, you know what? I'm no longer trying to be a full-time rapper or even a part-time rapper. I'm a full-time podcaster. And we see where his career went. You have to give some focus and some full attention to the things that you are aspiring to do. And he's wearing too many hats. He's wearing a 9 Trey hat. He's wearing a content creator hat. He's wearing a full-time rapper hat. He got to take them hats off. Just put the full-time content creator hat on and be a part-time rapper, and that's it. You don't need to be a 9 Trey member, bro. Put the 9 Trey down, bro. Put the 9 Trey down. You're 50 plus years old. I still want to know what age did Jim Jones join 9 Trey? I want to know. Did he get the Dave East package when he joined in his mid 20s? I still want to know when did Jim Jones check in for 9 Trey? I don't think he was young. I don't think he was a young man when he joined 9 Trey. I don't think he was like a teenager or nothing like that. Remember, Jim Jones. I think he graduated probably high school in the early '90s. 9 Trey started in '93, so I think Jim Jones finished high school in the early '90s. He finished high school in the early '90s. So it's not like he was going to high school or he was in middle school and he got blooded in. Like, he was in his mid 20s turning 9 Trey. So I still want to know, when did he turn 9 Trey? It's very peculiar to me. You know, very peculiar to me. But how do y'all feel about the situation? How do y'all feel? Do y'all feel like Jim Jones ruined Dipset? Do y'all feel like Jim Jones is a clown? Do y'all feel like me personally, I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I don't clown Jim Jones. Like I said, I don't clown Jim Jones for not having the heat on or not having things set up like it needs to be. He's an upstart. Give him some time. You know, it's funny. It's funny, and it's funny, and it's fair game. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you're clapping at Cam, you're clapping at 50, so they have all right to clap back at you. It's funny, but at the end of the day, Jim is an upstart. He's an upstart. When you can't clown somebody for being an upstart. If you're an upstart, you're just beginning. You're just getting your feet wet into a business. Like, you got to give people a little bit of time to upstart and to get their feet wet. And Jim is an upstart. So I don't clown him for not having the heat on and all that other stuff. I don't clown him for that. Not me. I don't clown him for that. Yeah, me personally, I don't clown him for that. I don't think that that's a leeway to get at him and stuff like that. That's just my opinion. You know? And we have, let me see, did Jim Jones not pay his heat bill? People say 67% says yes. But listen, guys, I just want to come on here and talk about this for a little bit. It's kind of late. We're probably gonna do some lives tomorrow. We'll probably come through with some videos as well tomorrow. It's kind of late. I'm tired. I just want to get on here and talk for a little bit. But you guys have a good night. I did wanted to talk about this yesterday, but I'm happy I got a chance to talk about this today. But listen, y'all have a good night. It's kind of late. I'm gonna head out, man. Y'all have a good night. Y'all rest up. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. God willing, man. We out. Toodles.